overall, what's your biggest focus you feel like with the group during camp?
Our biggest focus, well, there's probably several, but some of those things we're really trying to do is we have a good amount of experience, so we're trying to really lock into some of the details of schematically what we're doing and try to just take those things to another level. And some of the other things, we've got some pretty good young players too, so it's a matter of trying to catch those guys up so they can get on the field and function. So there's some of those things, and from a philosophical standpoint, last year was certainly an improvement for us on defense in a lot of ways, but we can't just be hungry for more. We got to be starving for more, and really that's just the tip of the iceberg about probably what we're capable of. So we got to keep setting high goals and really working to attain those goals.
Hey Brian, on the improvements you talked about, I think it was from 12th to 4th in total defense. I don't remember the number, but why was that? Why was that improvement there?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to think it was just great coaching, but I don't think it was. I believe that obviously our players, 1 year more of experience, 1 more year of really preaching the same message, trying to do a lot of the same things, just an improvement that way. And I do think we've recruited pretty well. We've developed guys pretty well. I think that's something that Coach Lappold, myself, and our staff really pride ourselves in our ability to develop players and get them to perform at a pretty high level. So I think all those things contributed to that. And again, that is something that we do feel good about. But at the same time, there's still a lot more we can do better at.
At that other defensive end spot, that weak side, I guess I would call it, you've got some newcomers there. You got Dean Miller. How do you see that position right now?
Yeah, I do. I think I really like our DN position. I know Jeremy Robinson's probably the only guy with a ton of experience, but if you just watch our defensive ends as a group doing things, man, we're longer, we're more athletic, probably than we ever have been overall from top to bottom. So I do feel like there's a good competition for some of those other spots, some playing time. Obviously, Dean Miller's been doing a really good job, and I don't want to just single him out, but he has. But I think we're gonna play 4 to 5 guys every game, so I just feel like there's really good competition down the line for some of those other snaps.
Have you had any true freshman defensive ends play for you before?
No, not start. So, we always tell guys we're going to play the best guys. So, and being the best at your position, it's not always I'm the best athlete. It's there's the whole package, right? So I'm also going to play guys that I trust. So if there's a really good player that, man, I don't know if he's going to do A, B, C, or D. It's hard to really play that guy a bunch, but it is our job then to get that guy so that when it's A, he's doing A. So and I think it doesn't matter if you're 5th or 6th year in the program or 1st year. We got to play the best guys, whoever that is. But that's an earned over time kind of decision. So that's part of fall camp also, is we get a lot of opportunities, a lot of days to look at guys before we really gotta start to prepare to play Lindenwood. So we're going to use these 18, 20 practices to really try to figure some of that stuff out.
With that experience that you talked about, and then bringing the young guys along, how much do you enjoy watching that? It seems pretty natural for your veterans to stick their nose in there and help those kids, and you don't have to tell them to do it anymore.
I do think we have built a good culture in that way, where guys they don't appear to be threatened, even though there's good competition. And that's the hallmark to me of a good culture within your program, and really good leadership from your experienced players, that they're willing to take time and coach guys up. And I can hear guys do that on a one-on-one basis, kind of in the back of the line sometimes even. And so that is kind of refreshing and encouraging, and that's just part of helping our defense grow and improve.
We talked in the spring a bit about the Hawk linebacker position and trying out safeties in the Cinco. Just where are you at right now in terms of who's figuring into that picture?
Yeah, so if we're playing with more of our nickel defense, our 4-2-5 alignment, that's really the guys that are doing that are all coming from our safety room. The Dye brothers and Marv Grant. We're trying to take one of the younger freshmen, Dre Gibson, and kind of he's working there as well. He's a bigger, thicker corner. So that's when we're seeing those more, spread out 3 and 4 wide receiver formations. Those are the guys that are going to be in there. And then when we get to more of 2 tight end formations and things like that, then we'll use a third linebacker, which would be the Jason Gilliams and some of those kind of guys that Alex Reich, some of those guys jump in there and play. So it really depends on what the offense is giving us. But we probably tried 5 or 6 different players at that Cinco position. That's what we call that field player, the field outside backer in our 4-2-5 stuff. We tried out some different guys and we've kind of whittled it down a little bit and got to those guys so they get the reps.
You've talked about the improvement, and we talked about it, the improvement from last year, from the year before. You're looking at making the next step this year. Is there a big, kind of a specific area among the defense you're looking at? Like, okay, we can make a big leap here.
Yeah, I still think I think about 3 things. Is number one, it's our run defense still needs to improve. I mean, it was drastically improved from what it was. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere but up, but we went significantly up. But still, I think that's, if you're asking me, I want to be a defense where teams, and they almost quit trying to run the ball on you because they can't. And we did have a couple games of that last year, which is refreshing. Taking me back to some of the former years and former places where, okay, right? But we weren't that way all the time. We've just got to be game in and game out. We got to be able to shut people down in the run game better. We really need to improve in our red zone defense. I don't know that we stopped anybody from scoring when they got inside the 20 last year, whether it was kicking a field goal or scoring a touchdown. So, hey, we've already addressed those things and talked about things, and we track them when we get red zone periods in practice. So, hey, man, we want to get turnovers, we want to get stops, we want to force field goals, and the last of the 4 results is touchdowns. So really, it's no touchdowns, but and we've got to do a better job in that area. And again, we couldn't be any worse than we were. So, and I feel like we look at what we're doing in there. Are we making the right calls? Are we playing the right defenses? I feel like we are, but we just have breakdowns that from time to time that really, they seem to always hurt us. So red zone defense, and then the other thing would be some of our third down defense, particularly our third and long, third and medium, third and long kind of defenses where we want to stop people at a higher percentage and really put ourselves in 4th down, get off the field situations, and I think we were, again, not strong enough in those areas. So again, I look forward to those things in practice and really try to get our guys cued into that, because obviously you build your game habits through practice, and we need to just win more in practice doing those things. And if we can, then I gotta feel good going into the season about where we're at. If we can really improve those 3 areas, that'd be key.
When you've had younger players that have been able to find playing time fairly early, at what point have they usually popped in the fall? Because, obviously defense so much is about when the pads come on, but have you noticed stuff early on with some of these guys that's maybe a little bit uncommon?
Yeah, I probably take it back. I can remember back to UW Whitewater, if you guys ever started a freshman. Yeah, we did. I guess we started defensive tackle, and it was practice number 2. He was the starter. Yeah. So that's defensive tackle, which, there's harder positions, more difficult mental positions than probably that one. But yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for that, exactly when that is. I just feel like it's consistency over time is what we look for. So I don't know. Typically, it can be 1 practice or 2 practices, and it might be longer in the fall camp, for example, or it might be even it might take a guy halfway through the season before it really clicks. And I don't think we have a complicated defense, but we have enough, right, where there's little checks and adjustments, and there's just things that happen, and I don't think a younger player can really play his best if he's just thinking all the time. It just slows you down. So so we've got to teach kids and get kids to that point where they can really cut loose and play, and hopefully do the right things along the way, and then we'll see. But I think it might take a little bit of time.
DJ and Tommy, you know, they've had kind of the journey you want to see for defensive tackles getting to this point, you know, playing a little bit, playing more, and building a bigger role, and now they're kind of in that group. What
Yep.
have you seen from them, and
Yeah.
and how can they maybe help with that run defense?
Yeah, they need to, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
Caleb Taylor as well. So those guys have, again, really done a good job of development. You know, I remember probably our first year here was maybe, you know, they were, you know, one of them would travel, one of them wouldn't, and you know, he might play a couple, 3 plays, and obviously their role has grown as we've gone on here, and you know, now they're key players, and so, but they've also, they're strong kids, they're big kids. We've added good weight, but at the same time they're really pretty decent athletes in there. So in terms of just foot agility and they've played enough snaps now where they're not really fooled by a lot of things. So I think all those things have to play into where we got to be pretty solid on the interior. I feel confident in those guys.
When someone brings up Caleb Taylor to you, what do you think of?
Caleb Taylor? The light bulb went on somewhere, you know, at some point towards the end of last year and in the off season. I think he, you know, always kind of wondered if it was ever going to just really fully go. He's always had a good looking kid, but his weight always fluctuated, and you know, but I do believe that he kind of say, hey, this is rapidly coming to the end for me, and I want to make sure that I go out on a good note, and I want to go out at my best. And so whatever it's taken to do those things and accomplish that, he's done it. And he's a really mature kid, you know, he's like thinker about things. And so I just feel like he's made up his mind. This is where I'm going, and that's where he's going.
You said that last year about
show
Cornell.
up in the form of, like, have you seen recruiting success show up in the form of how you get these guys, like their physical build when they show up? Seems like you have a lot of guys who don't maybe look like true freshmen.
Well, yeah, that would be a good thing if we're noticing that, right? Because then we're probably on a little bit of a higher quality kid coming into it. But a lot of those guys we're still a development program in my mind. So we're not always going to get the 5-star kid, and we're not always going to get the ready-made kid, and you know, maybe we can get a kid that's closer to that. But we got to keep going, and that's, you know, really our strength staff. Everybody's on board with that. So, but I do, you know, if you look over the last couple of years, our freshman class of guys, I mean, they're, you know, I feel like we're making good strides in recruiting, and we're in the game recruiting wise with overall with some pretty high quality kids, which is where you want to be. So,
Brian, 2 things. One, you said the similar thing that you just said about Caleb and the light bulb about Cornell. You've said it about other guys too. Is that just the kids and their natural progression, or do you think that's part of how this program and your scheme and just what you guys do is progressing, that is allowing them to kind of find that? Or?
well, I think both. Obviously, kids just mature, right? Yeah. So they just get a little bit broader perspective on life and their place in life and their goals and what they want to do. But I do know that we have a pretty consistent message in our program about what it takes, and it's a pretty unrelenting message on a daily basis, and we hold guys accountable, and pretty soon, you know, it gets to be where hey, I'm being held accountable, and it used to be where I felt like somebody's making me do it, and I'm resisting it a little bit. Now I see it as it's delightful, you know, and now that's what I want to do. So I do think that some of those guys get to that point. But like Cornell Wheeler, it's a daily kind of pouring into them, whether it's Coach Simpson's, it's myself, it's Coach Leipold, it's pouring into them. Hey man, you know, we really need you to step up and be a leader this year and take charge of some things. And you know, you say that enough to a guy, I think pretty soon he exudes that, and he buys into it. So I think that's kind of what's happening.
And along those lines, gotta ask you what it's like without Rich. I mean,
without Rich,
it's gotta be weird.
It is quite honestly. But you know, that's why I am glad that we do, you know, we didn't put all our eggs in Rich's basket last year. We knew that, hey, that day that's coming to an end. We better get the next core of guys ready to do it. And so I think we prepared for that. So, Rich was just an awesome kid in our program, Rich Miller. And, obviously you miss certain things about him, but I do believe that we've been able to pick up the slack pretty well here. And I don't find myself saying, man, I wish we had Rich Miller out there because we can't get lined up. I don't feel myself saying that. So I believe that's a credit to Cornell and, Taiwan Berryhill and some of those other guys that have really jumped in and picked up the slack.
You guys have a lot of young linebackers, defensive backs. How important is special teams for those guys to get reps, and how important is that for you guys as a staff?
That's the way, right? For those guys to really get on the field, maybe even first sometimes. And yeah, we do have a lot of guys that we in terms of just being an athlete and being physically minded, just being able to run down on a kickoff is something, or punt return and do some things. We do need to find some roles for those guys, and because I think that breeds confidence in them, and then they're sometimes that's first before the actual defense, but hopefully we're grooming some guys for some of those roles.
And for someone like Mason Ellis, just what have you seen from him this offseason?
Yep, he's well, he had a little surgery injury over the summer that kind of held him back a little bit, but I know this, he's probably in the top 3 fastest guys on our team. He's the strongest defensive back by a long shot, and he's got all the physical traits, and again, we just need to keep pouring ourselves into him because he can do some things. He should be a 4-core special teams guy, and he's got to find his role on our defense too, where he can, at this point, I guess he's probably a little bit more in a backup capacity, but he's got to be a guy that, hey, when he gets in the game, we're not seeing a big drop off, So I have confidence in him. He really wants to do well. So you just got to keep growing in confidence.
Now that you've had DK in the program longer, just how have you seen him contribute to the defense and the development of those young corners?
Yeah, he's really done a good job. It's such a good hire, that we're really fortunate to have DK McDonald, and I don't know, guys, I've really kind of given that whole secondary over to him, and he's coaching those positions back there. I don't even know what I'm doing at practice. I'm walking around and trying not to get in the way, I guess, and but he's really done a good job. He's got the instant street cred because of his background with guys, so they'll listen. But it's not just it's not unwarranted street cred. He knows what he's doing too, and done a really good job of helping those guys. Again, sometimes it's just little things that how you tell a guy about it, how you talk to him about a certain technique, and what you tell him. And he's done a really good job with formations and alignments within formations, and giving you the answers to the test by how they line up sometimes, which is we've taken big steps in that area. So it's been a great addition. I'm really happy.
Matt asked you about Rich. What about Kenny? I mean, how prepared do you feel like the safeties room is to move on without him?
Kenny Logan is a unique person who we love, and but quite honestly, we got to keep going, and he was kind of a dominant personality in the room, which no longer there, which has allowed a few other guys to kind of blossom a little bit. And hey, Marv Grant and OJ Burrow, you better step up now, because you don't have Kenny, doing all your talking for you. So I think it's been helpful in some ways. You can love a guy and miss a guy, but still, you got to keep moving, right? When you move on to your next job, somebody else got to take your spot. So they might miss you, but somebody else is going to be there. So and those guys, I think it's allowed those guys to grow. It quite honestly has. They've had to. They've had to.
Some of OJ's biggest games came later in the year. The Tech game was a really big game for him. Did he take a step forward sort of over the course of the season, or what's that development?
Yeah, he was pretty solid last year. I thought a little up and down.
Yeah.
He's obviously he's got the best just ball skills and knack back there of anybody getting around the ball. He can be one of our best fundamental tacklers that we have, but he was also some of the worst. He led our team in missed tackles last year and played 60% of the snaps. So he got to improve his tackling, and not that he's not willing or doesn't know how. You gotta make yourself do it, right? You gotta make yourself do it correctly, and I think he knows that and has been told that, and he's heard from some next level people. Hey, what's the knock on you? Well, it's your tackling. So I think he's really motivated to pick those things up, and he's a super smart kid though. Like you can't fool that guy back there. I mean, he knows what's going on, and he's become a lot better communicator. So I love it.
Marvin Grant, how do you weigh him as a Cinco versus him as a safety, or is that more about the other people around him, like the depth in terms of what you feel
could
more
be.
comfortable with?
I do think he's got good natural traits at both of the spots. Obviously practices at both of the spots, and I think it's just sometimes it's a matter of the combination of who he's playing with as to where he would go. Who wouldn't want a big, long, fast guy, physical guy playing near the line of scrimmage and doing some of those things. But he's also can play from some depth sometimes and come downhill to make plays as well. So I think he'll do both. I think he will do both. It'll just be a matter of, again, who's out there with him in what combination as to what he does.
Anything else for Coach?
Did you see Kobe and Melo becoming what they are now when they were freshmen?
I don't know fully when they were freshmen. They're about 160 pounds out there trying to play, so it was hard to get a really great read, but probably, as their freshman year, the more you see them, the more you think, well, these guys are actually pretty good if we can just get them physically to where they need to be. And again, it's been a long process, but they've just grown with our program, and now you look at those guys, and they've got some muscle to them, and they've got some maturity to them, and I don't know if I've ever had guys out there I just feel more confident in. Doesn't matter what we call. Those guys are going to cover whoever they're matched up on. They're going to cover them. So, or at least I feel like they can, and so that's a great comfort. When you got some guys like that. So.